Welcome to the Political Ferret Show. New content will be uploaded every Wednesday and Sunday, and if you like this kind of content, consider becoming a Patreon and help with just $1 a month to make the change possible. I'm not easily upset, but lately I had a discussion that did upset me a little bit, and my discussion partner said pretty much, well, altruism is in danger because egoism is on the rise, and it is because of egoists like you, and so on. So the thing is, I'm not really driven by egoism, but the thing is, they point out that this is something like a spectrum, and there is egoism on the one side and there is altruism on the other side, and in the end it is just these two extremes and there is nothing in between that. So I want to talk about egoism and altruism, and especially that altruism is not the end of this whole spectrum, and egoism is pretty much a point where nobody is. That's the interesting thing. So when we talk about egoism, we would say that somebody will sacrifice the whole world to get a little gain. On the other hand, a perfect altruist would sacrifice himself to improve the world just the tiniest bit. So this is the spectrum we are in. Of course, we start with egoism. What is egoism? That's what I told in the beginning. Egoism means that you would sacrifice everything and everyone for your own gain. Nobody does that. You have to be a psychopath in the highest ranks to be like that. Even a psychopath thinks sometimes about, perhaps I need these other guys a little bit and so on. So the perfect egoism is not really something that exists. So what's the next thing? I would say it's natalism. Natalism comes from birth. So the idea is that I would sacrifice the whole world for my own children. So that's the next thing, children, and your own children, that is. So in the next step, it's familyism, which means that you would sacrifice the world for your own family. What is your family? It might be just your partner. If you say, I have a partner but I do not care about children, this is your family. And if you say I would do everything for my partner, you are pretty much in the point of familyism. You are also there when you have, things like adoptive children. You say this is part of my family. Where you took there the borders, it can go into the extremes. You can of course say something in the likes of the whole world is one family, and it would technically be also familyism, but in the end you have, family is defined pretty much that you know the people at least to a certain degree, or that there is a very short connection from you to one in this group. So in the end we talk about family, more or less. It is the spectrum from yourself to your family, but not way further. So the next step would be tribalism. Tribalism is about the tribe, and your tribe is a little bit more than your family. There are the friends now within that. So a classical example might be a club, a biker rocker club or something like that, where you have some family inside perhaps, but you have some people who are not blood but they are good friends and you would die for them. So this, I would say, and the Hells Angels or something like that, they are tribalistic in nature. So the next thing is nativism. Nativism is insofar different to tribalism as that you do not know each and every member of this group anymore. It's about where you are from. When you ask people and say, what are you? And they say, I'm a New Yorker. This is nativism. They are very into where they are coming from or where they are. But this is naturally a smaller thing. It is, with us in Austria, it's about the valleys. People are very fond of their valleys in the mountains. So, and they say, these people over there in this valley, they are stupid and our valley is the greatest, and so on. This is nativism. The next step would be, of course, patriotism. Patriotism or nationalism in the end is about a bigger group. It is to say, I am from Austria or Germany or something like that. There are points in Austria I never was, so I don't know the people there and so on. So you have then, you could argue pretty much, because Austria has only 10 million inhabitants and this is less than London has, that patriotism in Austria is nativism in Great Britain in regards to London. this is true to a certain degree. Patriotism is bound on the size of your nation, and when you have very big nations, it can become quite silly to a certain degree from my point of view, because the nation is often then a conglomerate of very, very different forms. So I don't know how somebody can say I'm a Chinese or I'm American, because they're so different within their own structure. But it's okay. Patriotism is one thing that you can go with. So we're talking about here of groups. So not just family, but about groups that you selected yourself. You can't select family, but you can select a group. So the next thing is soft altruism. What is soft altruism? Well, it is this idea of I pay my taxes so that others have it better. These people will give a little bit so that others will have some good things. On the other hand, you can have hard altruism. Those are those people who say I will die for, I don't know, that somebody has just a sandwich. Altruism is a broad spectrum for itself, and I think we will talk about this in another video in detail, but this is just where we can find out what is in between egoism and altruism, so we can't just point to altruism and talk about altruism all the time. So altruism is pretty much around the species. It pretty much never goes beyond that. So we have this next step from family over group to the whole human species, but you can go further. You can go to soft environmentalism. What is soft environmentalism? Well, it's the people who say, oh, but we have to save the whales and we have to save the monkeys and so on. It is pretty much about other mammals or other animals or animals itself and so on. But then you can go further into hard environmentalism. Here it is about the trees, the grass, and so on. It's not just about animals anymore, it's about the real environment. So environmentalism goes beyond altruism, but is also a very, very broad stroke. So when you have here now this whole thing, from family over group to species to life, is this the end of the story? Of course not. You can go further. You can say, okay, life is not the end of the story. You go beyond that. We have to protect these stones. We have to protect, I don't know, Mars from life. We have to protect the whole universe or something like that. You can go beyond. And wherever you are and whenever you think that you are on the extreme, you can go further. So this is the interesting thing. When I talk with people and they say that I'm egoistic, I point out that I do this pretty much for my family and for my children. So I can't per definition be egoistic. And to say, well, if you put your family before a family of somebody who do not know, you are an egoist, it's not true. I might be tribalistic, patriotistic, familiaristic, I don't know. It can be any one of these things. There are, of course, mixtures. There are, of course, things like you are a patriot, but you went over from Canada to America. Your whole family is in Canada, they hate America, and you are an American patriotist. So this is not a step where I say, okay, to be on the next step, you have to fulfill all the requirements below that. This is absolutely not true. So the question is, in the end, how many people are really, really interesting for you? For how many people would you sacrifice things? And I made a video and it was quite interesting to ask the people if they would sacrifice one they love for other people, and a lot of people said yes, but only for I would sacrifice one person that I really, really love for 10,000 people. But there were some people who said I would sacrifice one person that I love for just 2 people. And this is interesting, and there is of course a spectrum and we are different. I myself, I would not sacrifice my child for millions of people that I do not know, but that's only me. You can say this very, very differently, but it is still not egoistic to see something like that. I think it is part of nature that we prefer those who are close to us, and I think this is a good thing. And if you do not think it is a good thing, you are entitled to your opinion. It does not make you bad, and my perspective does not make me bad. We are different.